Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where I like to bust a few myths. And one of my biggest gripes is how some businesses are creating tech projects to implement new tech solutions and then remove their people or make their employees redundant. Because I keep banging on about this, but you need both. Tech doing the repetitive, mundane stuff, and your people, the most important and expensive and valuable assets, should be doing those high-value activities. So as we're surrounded by chatbots and a lot of misconceptions online at the moment, I wanted to get a company that stand out from the crowd and get them onto the podcast. So Ruth Zive, Ada's head of marketing, is going to join us on the podcast today. And she's going to talk about how Ada is transforming how people work and how businesses design their customer service organisations. They're a market leader in automation customer experience, which is often abbreviated to ACX. And Ada has grown from 2 to nearly 150 employees. But their revenue has grown year over year by more than 300%. Not to mention securing backing of the world's leading capital firms. So I invite you to come with me. Let me take your ears on a journey all the way to Toronto, Canada, so we can speak with Ruth Zive about how Ada is transforming how people work and how businesses design their customer service organisations, but also the powerful story behind that and that incredibly cool name too. So let's get Ruth on the show now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. My name is Ruth Zive, and I head up marketing for a company called Ada. I'm a long time, or I guess that's kind of code for old marketing professional. I spent the first half of my career working in nonprofit management and the last 8 or so years working primarily in the technology space. Don't know if you want to know about me personally. I'm also mother to 5 amazing kids, most of whom are adults now. I'm a special needs advocate, a dog lover. I love to travel or rather escape my busy life with my husband and partner in crime. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. And I don't like old markets. I would say experienced. Always go with experience.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds better.
Well, huge thank you for coming on today, Ruth. But before we go, I'm quite conscious there's going to be some people listening that are just hearing about Ada for the first time. So can I maybe ask that you help set the scene by telling the listeners a little bit more about exactly what Ada is and also how you're enabling customer experiences and transforming the way companies not only delight, but also retain customers with this automation-first customer experience?
Sure, absolutely. So at the highest level, Ada sells a software platform to automate the customer experience. So what that means at our core, we're essentially a chatbot, but I'm using that term somewhat loosely just to provide some context, I guess, for your listeners, because we do a lot more than just respond to FAQs, which is, I think, today what most people imagine when they think of a chatbot. By contrast, Ada offers a very highly personalized experience that allows our customers to self-serve on demand, on the digital channel of their choice. So think about, on the website, in-app, across social channels, and in the language of their choice, because we know today that customers want immediate access to answers to their questions across channels 24/7. So we provide a platform so that they can do that. And I guess the best way to really share how we're enabling our customers to transform in that way and how we delight their customers with our automation first strategy is through, I guess, sharing a tangible example. And often the one we point to, which is pretty exemplary, is AirAsia. It's one of our customers. So before they rolled out Ada, their customers often had to wait on hold for over an hour on average to have their support questions resolved. So, and this I think is a pretty relatable example. Things like I want to change my air ticket, or I lost my luggage, or I want to order a special meal for my flight. It's all pretty, I think, relatable stuff. And within a few months of rolling out ADA, AirAsia was able to introduce automation to resolve those types of inquiries. In fact, 75% of inquiries are resolved by ADA without any escalation to a live agent at AirAsia. And then for those inquiries that do require that escalation for kind of more complex inquiries, wait times at AirAsia have been reduced to under a minute. So you can imagine that's pretty dramatic transformation in a really short period of time. They were able to achieve this inside of a year. And as a result of these efficiencies and the diminished wait times, customer satisfaction scores actually really soared at AirAsia. You'll excuse the pun there.
I do love a good pun, so I'll let you on. And another thing that stands out to me is the name ADA. So I'd love to know more about the actual story behind the company and how the founders were actually armed with this desire to understand the human and technological challenges that keep companies from providing those customer services. So can you tell me a little bit more about that story and where the name came from?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we often get asked about our name. We're actually named for Ada Lovelace, who is widely regarded as the person who wrote the first line of code, going back many, many years ago. We love the fact that Ada Lovelace was a woman because it's a real priority to us at Ada that we reflect a diverse workforce, and that diversity is further reflected in our AI. So that's where the name originated. The company itself, there's an interesting story. Our founders knew that they wanted to do something in the customer service space. They, like probably all of us, had experienced the pain of poor customer service, waiting on hold for hours on end. In fact, interesting little stat, the average person spends 43 days of their life on hold, which is pretty horrible. So our founders, the Ada founders, spent several months themselves. They kind of rolled up their sleeves and spent several months working in call centers so that they could understand this pain, not just from the perspective of the average customer, but from the perspective of the companies that were trying to provide the customer service. And what they realized pretty quickly through that experience is that most customer service inquiries were the same questions over and over and over again. So if we go back to the AirAsia example, for instance, when is my flight arriving? I want to change my seat. I can't find my luggage. What's your baggage policy? And it's something like 20%, 80% of all inquiries are related to 20% of all questions. And so it became really clear to them very early on that customer service was a great use case for automation and that there was a more efficient way to do this. And it was sort of from that point of view that Ada was born.
Wow, what a fantastic story. Apart from the 43 days on hold, of course.
I know. That's not fantastic, but represents a great opportunity, right?
Absolutely. And here in 2020, of course, Ada is now a leader in automated customer experience, ACX. But for people listening from outside the industry thinking, that sounds great, but what does it mean? Can you expand on how they are how you're already interacting with automated customer experiences every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our ACX really speaks to our point of view, which is that you should always lead with automation, that your customer experience should be underpinned by an automation first strategy, and that your very expensive and skilled human resources who should always be available. We would never suggest that you eliminate human support from the support model. They should always be available, but they should really be prioritizing the highest value, most critical customer inquiries, the ones that can't be resolved effectively through automation. And our technology is kind of purpose-built to support that point of view. AI, and if you take that a step further, if you think about AI and automation, it's not a point solution. And that's often how it's treated today. It's sort of a set it and forget it approach, which is why so many companies are failing with automation. We believe at Ada that you have to build out your support organization in a way that leads with automation. And so automated customer experience is that strategic underpinning. And we don't just put our software platform in the hands of our customers. We also give them this 3-step framework, which we call our ACX framework, to roll out alongside of our platform. And it's 3 phases. The first phase is focused on swift cost savings. And most of our customers realize returns on this phase inside of 30 days. It's sort of the low-hanging fruit. What are those 20% of questions that account for 80% of your inquiries that can be swiftly automated? So that's phase one, is focused on cost savings and efficiency. Phase two is more so about customer delight and satisfaction. And that's where we work with our customers to introduce more personalized experiences. So think about the difference between what is your return policy and can I return what I purchased last week? The second option requires that you perhaps authenticate within the platform, that the automation identifies what it is that you purchase and then recommends a return strategy. So those personalized experiences are introduced. And then phase three, and this is, really exciting, is about net new revenue attainment and transforming the customer service organization from a cost center to a revenue center. And again, going back to the AirAsia example, in the interest of consistency, they're actually, since introducing ADA, they were able to grow their ancillary revenue by 8 times. So they're selling, for instance, more meals in flight, more upgrades. They're promoting more tailored offers, all automatically through ADA. So those are the phases of the automated customer experience, and our customers build out their support organization alongside that framework.
And for any business leaders listening, intrigued by everything that we're talking about here, can you share how ADA is actually transforming how people work as well, and how businesses design their customer service organizations? Because that's a huge thing on its own, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think what appeals to our customers most from a business point of view is that when you lead with automation, you can really be more thoughtful about how your human resources are being used and what your human resource needs are going to be. So the biggest difference for our customers is that they're building out ACX organizations. So automation is kind of the front line of attack for their customer support. And then the live resources that they have manning the phones and the live chat software, those folks are more highly skilled, and they've been retrained to actually address cross-sell and upsell opportunity to drive revenue, which obviously from a business point of view is a really compelling consideration, that you could actually drive revenue through your customer support organization. It's crazy that customer service is such a cost center, because it's so much easier to recognize revenue through existing customers than it is through net new customers. It's much more efficient. So I think that's the biggest difference that our customers are realizing, is that they're reorienting their support organization to lead with automation and ultimately diminish costs and drive net new revenue. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. And are there any, additionally to that, are there any client stories or use cases that you could possibly share that just help everyone listening understand the almost before and after picture and the kind of difference that's actually being made here? Yeah,
well, maybe since I keep mentioning AirAsia, the best thing is to come back to that story I talked about, how this is all inside of a year, they were able to diminish their customer wait times from over an hour to under a minute. I mean, that's pretty radical. Yeah. They were able to grow their ancillary product revenue by 8 times, again, inside of a year, which is really considerable. And what's crazy is that oftentimes people think, well, when you introduce automation, you're going to make your customers more frustrated. You're going to compromise the customer experience. Our customers have actually realized that there's greater customer satisfaction as a result of this. And that was certainly the case with AirAsia, and they grew their customer satisfaction to over 90% after introducing ADA. So really, really dramatic differences. We have a lot of other case studies represented on our website and success stories with the associated before and after. And AirAsia's results are pretty representative of what our customers experience.
And one of the reasons I was excited to get you on today was after reading that ADA is the only chatbot platform purpose-built to support an automation-first customer service strategy. So after reading that, it was clear to me that you guys are completely different from all the other solutions out there. But can you expand on what you think that makes the ADA chatbot platform different from all the other solutions? Because it's a very crowded market, isn't it?
It really is a crowded market. And I think that as the head of marketing at Ada, that's arguably my greatest challenge, is how do we cut through the noise and really assert ourselves as the leader in this space? I think it's interesting because Gartner says that inside of the next year, more than half of all chatbot deployments will fail. And I think the reason is because most chatbots are glorified widgets. They're these kind of point solutions that do nothing more than respond to frequently asked questions. So when I think about how Ada is different, I would really focus on three things. The first is that we're incredibly easy to use even for non-technical teams. What you have in the chatbot market is, on the one hand, you have these FAQ widgets that don't do much. On the other end of the spectrum, you have more sophisticated platforms that are really, really difficult to configure for customer service organizations. They have a high dependence on IT. Ada is both easy to use for non-technical teams. Customer service organizations can build them, manage them, deploy them without any technical skill. And they are also highly personalizable and customizable. So we offer both. And that's, I think, really what differentiates us in the greatest sense. We're also we scale for the enterprise. So we can manage very easily an incredibly high volume of inquiries. And of course, as I mentioned, we put in the hands of our customers our ACX framework. So we're not just giving you a software tool, we're giving you a framework that really ensures your success.
And another reason that I invited you on today was because I originally learned about you when I discovered that you were one of only 5 vendors, I think it was, selected by Gartner out of the thousands of others in that highly fragmented market and crowded market that we just mentioned. So, I mean, what does that kind of recognition mean to you all at Ada?
Well, obviously, it means a great deal. Gartner is, highly respected, and we were very honored to be included in that report. I think what made it particularly meaningful is that it was a report about AI. And I think that, there's a lot of buzz and confusion in the market about AI. And I believe that we were selected by Gartner because Ada really makes AI accessible in a business sense, and the returns are realized by our customers very swiftly. And so I think having that market validation has been very meaningful and gives our customers the assurance that we're credible and that we can actually deliver against our promise.
And I'm sure every business leader listening are going to have so many calls and emails and people turning up at reception saying AI is the future, chatbots are the future. So finally, is there any advice that you can offer to businesses around how to pick that right customer service solution for their business?
I would suggest 2 things. One is that they should understand that AI is not a point solution. It's not a quick fix. You should be able to realize returns on your investment in AI quickly. On the one hand, it shouldn't have to be a multi-year, multi-million-dollar investment. You should very swiftly be able to realize some returns. But you also have to make the investment from a change management point of view and a customer service point of view, and put the right resources in place to drive that success quickly. I would also say, just relative to chatbots generally, be careful what you choose. Not all chatbots are created equally. Most of them will fail. We have so many customers that deployed other chatbots and then come back to us because those deployments failed. So be thoughtful about what you choose. Make sure that you're choosing a company that has the track record and the credibility and the proof points to deliver what you're looking for.
Excellent advice. And for anyone that delves even deeper, wants to just find out more information and maybe even carry on the conversation that we started today, what's the best place to find Ada online, and also contact your team if they've got any questions?
Absolutely. So our website is ada.support. It's ada.support. We have a great resource center on our website. I'd encourage you to check out all of our resources, and feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. It's Ruth Zive. You can include my LinkedIn profile in the podcast if you'd like. I share a lot of information from Ada directly, and then also just best practices within the industry.
Excellent. Well, I'll add those links to the blog post that will accompany this episode over on my website. And
awesome.
Like we said a few moments ago, it is a crowded market. But I think because of that, there are so many misconceptions about, like you said, set and forget. And it's probably the worst thing you can do. And also the other one of putting the technology in place, replacing humans with machines. But that's not it either. They're your most valuable assets in a company.
Absolutely.
So you want to give them the high value activities. So thanks so much for busting a few myths and sharing the story behind, Ada. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again.
My pleasure. This has been a delight. Thank you so much for having me.
The average person spends 43 days on hold. Man, what we're doing with our lives. Sometimes it feels like we're doing that in one sitting, I've got to be honest. And I've started leaving companies now that make it impossible for me to reach them without navigating through painful phone menus and a Kenny G soundtrack for 43 minutes, or days, of course. But Ada, for me, feel like a complete breath of fresh air. And like Ruth said, it's not about buy the tech, set it and forget it. And it's not about replacing people. The way to stand out in a crowded market is to do things the right way and differently and promote that people are your most expensive and valuable asset. So take them away from the boring stuff and into high-value tasks. I really do think there's an argument that we're not being enslaved by robots and machines. We're actually being set free by them to do more than just repetitive and mundane tasks. We're better than that. Let the machines do that stuff. But, and this is a huge but, side by side, the best of AI and the best of human minds combined, working seamlessly alongside each other, that's where the really cool stuff happens. But over to you. Feel free to message me and tell me I'm wrong, offer different viewpoints, ask questions, or even request to come on this podcast. That's how this show works. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk if you would like any help with your business blogs or launching your own podcast or repurposing content, whatever it is. If you've not had enough of me with a daily podcast and you still want more, we can do that too. But seriously, a huge thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.